Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming again this morning. Minister Haggie, Minister Dempster joining us virtually today, and here with me is Jamie Chippett again, Deputy Minister of Forestry, and Blair Adams from the department is online there as well. Continues to be a heavy couple of weeks and heavy days as we continue to work through this situation, and we know those who have been directly impacted by wildfires near their communities continue to feel a lot of stress and worry. In particular, those who have lost their homes and those who are unsure if their homes are still standing. And as this continues to get worse over the last few days, it's very clear that all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians' level of anxiety continues to rise. But of course, I want to thank everybody who's doing tremendous work, dangerous work, as we continue to look at all options to help suppress these wildfires and look at situations where we may need to continue to provide evacuation alerts or evacuation orders throughout the province. The good news this morning is there are no further evacuation alerts and no evacuation orders, so everything that was in place yesterday remains the same situation this morning. But of course, I remind everybody, especially those in evacuation alert areas, to continually monitor government channels in the event that that does change to an order. Last night, I had a call with Prime Minister Mark Carney. I very much appreciated him taking the time to call me. He was very much up to speed on the situation here on the island, but I did take the time to just further describe the geography of what we're facing here, the fact that fires are not only in Central and in CBN, but now have moved obviously towards the urban centre. And again, he's very clear that it's a very serious situation, and he offered any and all help that the Canadian government can do. He committed to making sure that everything that we had asked for we have received, which is true to date, and as we continue to expand what we feel we need here on the ground, he is committed to providing us with that. Most notably what the federal government can help us with, because as we've discussed, they don't have water bombers, they don't have assets that can help fire suppression, but they have and they will continue to provide more support for logistics as we look at setting up further evacuation centers in the event it's needed, firefighter support and transportation support, which includes transportation to and from the sites and transportation for firefighters as well. Another piece of good news, we have procured a Sikorsky S-92 Raptor helicopter from Alberta. That is at the cost of about $2.1 million. I believe that has the capacity of 1,300 to 1,400 gallons. Am I right there?
I think it's actually larger.
Larger than that? Okay, so that is obviously good news. That'll be here in the next coming days as well. That will certainly help our suppression efforts. The Kingston fire is now just over 6,400 hectares, and it did experience some growth on the northern boundary. As everybody knows, it was high temperatures and windy yesterday, which does create extreme fire behavior. The construction of the fuel breaks in the north progressed greatly yesterday, thanks to efforts from everyone in the community. Another piece of good news is that we actually have more heavy equipment there on site than we can use. So thanks to everybody who's pitched in to help with those fire breaks. Ground crews continued to work the southern edge yesterday with air support, and our incident management team this morning currently assessing the fire behavior there, and we'll make a plan to action that site, which will include air support and ground support. The location of the head of the fire on the Kingston fire is just below Northern Bay. There will be air assets on site there today, including helicopters, and we're confident they can return to the south side of that fire. The Martin Lake fire, this morning's aerial assessment confirmed the fire has not crossed Route 360, and it remains on the east side of Great Rattling River. It's about 300 to 400 meters west of the Bay d'Espoir Highway. I think we can confidently say that the road, Bay d'Espoir Highway, will remain closed throughout the day. The fire is now approximately 800 hectares, and last night's activity was concentrated within the updated boundary. The weather conditions today include persistent south to southwest winds, temperatures getting up to 32 degrees, and an extreme, of course, fire weather index in that part of the province, throughout the whole province, really. And these conditions, combined with an active fire edge, are likely to result in continued fire growth today. There will be 30 firefighters on site today, as well as air support, including 4 helicopters, a bird dog, the 2 aircraft from Quebec, and 3 802 aircraft. Good news there, though, is there's no confirmed structure loss as a result of this fire at this time. Just to focus on that particular part of the province and individuals there, Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services will be contacting patients on the Canagarra Peninsula today with regards to any appointments they may have. So please be patient, wait for that call, and they'll work through you with regards to your healthcare needs. And regular ferry service has returned there today. It will be a load and go service, so when the boat is full, it will go. And that's the service from Pools Cove to Baillargeon. The Paddy's Pond fire continues to remain very hot and very smoky. Air suppression efforts, if you recall yesterday, we were looking at the north and the south side of that fire, and that did help slow the growth throughout the day. Ground crews, unfortunately, were pulled from the southern edge throughout the day due to extreme fire behavior. On the southern side, the wildfire is approximately 250 meters from the Trans-Canada Highway. It did grow, of course, throughout the day yesterday on the northern edge, which resulted in the evacuation of Three Island Pond area of Paradise. The incident management team is assessing the fire today and the construction of further fuel breaks. And today's plan will be air support, ground support, and the St. John's Regional Fire Department remains there as well. So our 6 tankers will be there today. That's the 4 Newfoundland and Labrador assets and 2 from Ontario. Yesterday, one of ours, as I mentioned, was unserviceable, but we're able to get that back in service today at some point very soon. Yesterday, I mentioned pending fines. So there have been 2 fines issued under our Forestry Act regulations with the new penalties that were put in place. One has been issued to an individual for using an excavator in a wooded area, and another has been issued to a corporation that was doing mulching with heavy equipment in an area where the fire index was extreme. So just to all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, this does show that these fines are in place for a reason, and that we are pursuing everybody who potentially has violated these regulations. And now that the 2 fines have been issued, I really hope people understand the seriousness of the fire ban and the fire regulations and what we're asking people to do. And if you do violate this, we will find you and we will fine you. And I can tell you that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are not going to be happy with people who have breached the regulations while everyone is trying to keep everybody safe and everybody is working hard and we have a finite number of assets. We do not want additional fires here in this province at this time. I also mentioned yesterday we would consider further restrictions on off-road vehicles in an effort to help protect our communities. And as we know, wildfires across the country and here in Newfoundland and Labrador are increasing in frequency and intensity. So under the Forestry Act, the Minister of Fisheries, Forestry and Agriculture can declare an area of forest land to be a restricted travel area for a period of time for the purpose of reducing the probability of a wildfire during a period of high fire hazard. And as of right now, we simply cannot afford any further risks, given the number of out-of-control wildfires we have, the high index we have, which will result in issues allocating our finite resources if wildfires continue to arise on the island and in Labrador. As of right now, we will continue to investigate the cause of these fires. We don't have evidence that any of these have been caused by off-road vehicles, but out of an extreme abundance of caution, and given, as I said, the finite resources we have in this province and in this country, we will be issuing an order to declare a province-wide restriction on off-road vehicle use on forested land for the purpose of reducing the probability of a wildfire during this high fire hazard season. This has been a recommendation we received from the department for the minister to make this declaration. It will be in place until Sunday, August 17th, 2025, and of course we will review that decision before that time, and if necessary we will extend it. And of course the fire index can change day by day, and this does apply to areas where there is a high fire index, which does cover almost the entirety of the province right now. Just so everybody knows exactly what an off-road vehicle is, it's a motorized snow vehicle, which is obviously not relevant right now, an all-terrain vehicle, including a side-by-side, a mini bike, a dirt bike, a trail bike, a miniature vehicle such as a dune or sport buggy, an off-road maintenance machine, and an amphibious vehicle. So there is a lot happening. There's a lot of serious, hard, dangerous work being done. I can't thank the firefighters, the volunteers, and the staff in the department, throughout all the departments, for doing all the hard work to keep our community safe. As I said yesterday, we will get through this. This will end, and we will be okay as long as we listen to the advice of the experts. And the most important thing, of course, is look after yourselves, look after your neighbours, and stay safe. Minister Haggie.
Thank you very much, Premier. I think it would be helpful, perhaps in the light of comments, to elaborate a little bit on what it means to be under a state of emergency order, an alert, and an evacuation order. If you are living in an area which is only subject to a state of emergency, that simply means that no one is asking you to do anything except make preparation. If, however, that area moves to a state of evacuation alert, that level of risk to you and your property has increased significantly, and you should be ready with what you need, a go bag, to leave at short notice. And that notice can be really short. Certainly an hour would be a long time under those circumstances. That go bag, there's plenty of advice about what you should have there in terms of important documents, insurance documents, medications, those kind of things. And I would direct you to the government of Newfoundland and Labrador webpage to do that. Obviously, if you are subject to an evacuation order, that means leave. And in the case of some areas, there will be routes designated to do this. And I'm thinking particularly of potential for Paradise and CBS at Galway, those kind of places. There will be, under those circumstances, clear signage and local law enforcement and others, ground search and rescue, to help you do that. If at some stage in the alert process, you know that you're going to have mobility issues, then the Department of Families has access numbers to call to make those arrangements. And I would direct you to the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador website, and specifically Families and Affordability Department. I think at that stage, it's also, and probably now really, it's also a good time for all of us to reach out to our insurance provider for more information about what your policy may cover and what it may not. Many standard home insurance policies actually provide coverage for additional living expenses. So if you have to have a hotel room, if you have to pay gas, meals, and incidentals, and they will have criteria about what is eligible, how you would claim that for those people under a mandatory evacuation order. So keep your receipts. If you are leaving as part of a mandatory evacuation order and you have pets, take them with you. There will not be an opportunity to go back to get them. We have heard Good Samaritan stories from first responders, such as the RCMP and local ground search and rescue, who have performed pet rescues. And for that, I thank you as a pet person myself. But the provision really is you need to look after them from the get-go and take them with you. We have financial support. The phone lines for the Red Cross have been updated in terms of their hours of operation. 1-800 863 6582, and they're running from 8 a.m. to 11. From financial support, 1,800 folk have registered, and very recently the Red Cross started out with the first tranche of just over 100 payments have been dispersed. If you can't ring them, you can always go in person to register at one of the centres, or alternatively on the website at www.redcross.ca/2025 Newfoundland wildfires. To follow with some of the themes of the Premier, if you see something suspicious, if you are concerned, call it in, call 911, and don't rely on social media. And again, social media is not necessarily a reliable source of information. There are people out there who are manipulating information and in actual fact lying outright to achieve their own ends. I would suggest you rely on government and law enforcement sources. Final comment, stay safe, look after yourselves, look after your neighbors, and be kind. Thank you very much, Premier.
Thank you, Minister Haggie. Minister Dempster.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to take a couple of moments to address some of the things that would have come to my attention through phone or email yesterday. As the days wear on, I would have to say that yesterday was the biggest day for me, receiving messages, text, a lot of times trying to clear up misinformation, people growing more concerned as the fires grows into broader regions. So I'm just going to try and recap some of that here briefly. A lot of misinformation that is adding to the anxiety, as I've said a number of times. I want to start with every region matters. We are not prioritizing one area over another. We are using science, safety, and strategy in terms of the plan of attack. I've said it many times in the media veils. We have an expert team in action, and I've gotten to work with those folks over the last several months and see that up close and personal. Our incident command teams are highly trained professionals. They use advanced tools, data, and scientific analysis to make informed decisions about where and how we fight the fire. Sometimes that's in the air, and sometimes that's on the ground, and sometimes it's both. But always, safety is paramount. There are situations where it becomes too dangerous to send our personnel directly into the fire, and we will never compromise the safety of our team. They face extreme conditions and risk every day. Our team are working tirelessly, as are many, I know, across the Avalon and beyond. And I have high praise all the time for those who are working tirelessly. We are deeply grateful for the support from our communities, from our partners, from our volunteers. The list of people doing good humanitarian work is long. Just as we did with the Holyrood fire, as well as Chance Harbour and Musgrave Harbour, the distance by air between the Kingston fire and the fire at Paddy's Pond, it's actually less than 100 kilometers. We are able to move those resources quickly as they are needed. So we're certainly focusing on both simultaneously. The Premier mentioned the ATVs. We will have more information coming later today in print, just for clarity for people who I know will have questions right after the media veil. I want to speak a moment in particular to people in rural. People I represent in my own riding here in southern Labrador and in particular across Labrador that I'm familiar with, many that are working right now in fish plants, processing areas. That's your only mode of transportation. I know it's berry picking season. It's the time of year when we are harvesting from the land and from the water. And I know that some of this is, we're asking you to make a sacrifice right now. But I want to remind you, this is for a window in time. When our weather indices are very high or extreme, we will be banning ATVs on forested roads. And so far, we've had wonderful cooperation. But as you've seen, the fires are some days taking on a life of their own, and the Premier is continuously working with the Prime Minister and other provinces to bring in additional resources. So we understand, but it is only for a window in time, and we thank you for your cooperation. We do have a lot of, yesterday in particular, there was crazy misinformation about people saying, I have offered to the Premier of this province all of these resources that can help. We were not aware. No information came back to the Premier's office or to me as the Minister of, or my officials. It was not only misinformation, it was wrong. And so today we have set up an email, Forest Fires 2025 at gov.nl.ca. Forest Fires 2025.nl.ca. If you have resources that you think we can help, we can benefit from for fighting the fire, I would ask you to send that information. And together we will get through this with resilience, determination, and paramount care for one another. I'll pass it back to you. You, Premiers, I'm losing my voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Dempster. Any questions?
Premier, you've spent a lot of time the past couple of days telling us how hard it's going to be to restrict ATV use because people need them for their everyday tasks. What's changed?
Yeah, so what's changed is that fires continue to happen. And the fires that we had, while the team are doing an amazing job suppressing it, they still continue to grow. You can only imagine how fast and how much larger they'd be if we didn't have the work on the ground and work in the air, making sure that we continue to keep them as small as possible. That we need to make sure that no further fires crop up, because we do only have so many assets, while we continue to get more assets in here from across the country to fight the current fires that we have. It was a step that we needed to take today out of an abundance of caution to just minimize any extra little bit of risk, however small it might be, to ensure that we don't have more fires.
How are you going to enforce that?
This is not a new regulation. This exists. It's just something that we've put in place based on the authority and the power that we have. So we have officers, enforcement officers, that will look at enforcing this, no different than the increase in fines that we have, and managed to get 2 fines issued out of that as well. So, in typical fashion, typical work that the enforcement officers do, they'll monitor the situation. Yeah, they will just do it as per normal course.
Would there be penalties for people who violate it? Like,
Yeah, there will.
What are they?
Yeah, there will be penalties. I don't have the penalties here in front of me, but yeah, there are penalties for violating regulations and orders. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What about the people, like Minister Dempster said, in some very rural areas of this province where
Yeah,
that's
so we're going to have to work with people. I mean, there is a bit of a learning curve to this. I think over the next couple of days, we'll be understanding certainly of individuals who may be in wooded areas and need to come and go from their work or from their family members to look after them. So we'll certainly appreciate that, and that's why we kind of made sure we were only making this decision when it was felt was necessary. So there will be a little bit of work to do with individuals as we go through this process. But again, keep in mind, this is only in place as of now till Sunday. There is some rain in the forecast. Let's not get our hopes up too much. It's not a lot of rain, but it is some rain. We take the good news when we can. And as I said, the fires, they're continuing to be worked on here. We have more air assets coming. We'll continue to look for as many as we can across the country. Maybe we'll get through this sooner than later, and we won't have to deal with that situation. But we have to use everything available to us right now.
The fines are for some woodland activity. You mentioned a company that was mulching, another one doing other work in the woods, but there have been dozens of reports of people having campfires, bonfires. Will there be any fines?
There may very well be. This is the information I have right now that as I said earlier this week, we knew of at least 1 investigation. Yesterday I knew about 2 fines that were pending, and now we can confirm that the fines have been issued.
How much were those 2 fines?
So the minimum is $50,000, and depending on whether it was a ticket or a summons, I guess, I'm not sure, I can't remember the details now, whether it could be higher, but at least $50,000 for both of them.
On the north side of the Kingston fire, you said you had more heavy equipment on site than you can use. Is that just for geographic reasons and room and space?
No,
or
I think that's
labor?
people willing to help.
So if more people could operate that machinery, you could use that.
Jamie knows a little bit more about that, but yeah,
Yeah, so the,
safety too, of course, yeah.
right, the fire break to the north on that fire, there had been numerous companies that had offered resources, and in fact, spontaneously showed up in the area we were constructing the fire break and offered to help. So there's only so many in that geographical area that we could use at any one time. I think there were 10 plus pieces of heavy equipment that showed up yesterday to help with that.
And on the Paddy's Pond fire, similarly, you're constructing these fire breaks, heavy civil companies in the area are working on that too. Is that volunteer work by those companies, or are they contracted on an emergency basis? How's that being done?
So I know there was some contracting with local heavy civil companies. I know that our incident commander also engaged with our own Department of Transportation and Infrastructure yesterday. So there are some government resources involved in those fire breaks at Paddy's Pond as well.
Some of the restrictions on off-road use and other forested activities in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia have faced, I would say, a lot of opposition, and a lot of opposition from across the country, perhaps it's fair to say. Do you anticipate that, and how are you planning to respond to that?
Yeah, I certainly anticipate opposition to that. There was opposition to it before we did it, so we're aware of it. I'm aware of it. When you're in this position, you have to make decisions that you think are right, and there's always going to be some pushback probably on every decision you make. I listen to all sides of every story before I make a decision and weigh out the pros and cons, but ultimately make the decision what I feel is best for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
I'm sure you've seen some of the misinformation online. What goes through your mind when you see it?
I don't think it's a surprise to see misinformation online. This didn't start during wildfire season. Online can be very useful for situations like this. It's a very quick way to communicate with all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who have access to the internet. Certainly when we can reach people, over 500,000 people with a click of a button, it doesn't get more easier or quicker than that. Unfortunately, of course, people take it upon themselves to believe that they should be the ones conveying the information. They don't have the information available to convey. As Minister Haggie said and Minister Dempster said, sometimes people choose to convey misinformation, I would say intentionally. I'm not sure why, but we've been reminding people since day one, use social media, but focus on the trusted channels such as Government NL, the department channels, and your local fire departments in your towns and communities, mayors, MHAs.
I want to go back to fire breaks for a moment. There's reports of locals trying to make their own fire breaks in the Conception Bay North area. What is the message for these people? Is this harmful or helpful?
People should not take this into their own hands. There are experts doing this, and as I said, the experts have gotten us through terrible forest fires over the past number of years. And as I said, we will get through this, and people need to be safe. Safety is a priority. Individuals should not decide to take any of this into their own hands.
You talked about coordinating with the feds for bringing in firefighters. This province has a lot of transient workers who work out of province, many of whom are trying to come home now and potentially looking at an Air Canada strike on Saturday. Saturday's a long way away right now, it feels like it, but is that something that you're looking at and trying to address as well?
Sorry, I didn't just clarify the question.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people working in Alberta, Ontario,
Sure.
wherever, and many of them have families that might need to evacuate and are trying to come home. And there could be a strike in Air Canada at Saturday. So is that something that's sort of on your table and you're looking at ways to address that as well?
Yeah, the strike could happen, of course, and that'll create some logistical problems, but there are other options that we'll continue to look at. I know Air Canada itself is already looking at booking passengers on other airlines. But I guess the important thing to note, anyone who's here in evacuation alert right now that may potentially face an evacuation order, if they're worried about that situation, they should certainly contact us through the information Minister Haggie has provided if they might need additional help. For example, as you said, their family aren't here to help them.
Can you give us a sense of which water bombing or helicopter assets are on the way that are private, and maybe a ballpark figure, like the Blackhawks from
The Blackhawks from Utah, I think, are, don't hold me to this, but about $3.3 million. The Raptor, which we procured this morning, late last night into this morning, is about $2.1 million. The asset from Manitoba, I believe, was about 1.1. So you're looking at what, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million right now.
And the other high capacity, because there are 4 coming, are they private or will they be from another province?
Those 4, yeah, the private ones as well. Yeah, they're private. So we'll be on top of that $8 million then.
Okay. And how will the province pay for this? Is this from a pot of disaster money, or will this be helpful?
Yeah, so with the budget, there's contingency money in the budget. How much is there right now, I'm not sure. But we will pay for this. We will pay for this and make sure that every asset available is here to work on these fires.
When you say procured, what is the length of that procurement? How long are they here for?
So some of these have been procured for a couple of weeks right now, and then like the other ones will have various details about how long they're going to be here for. And of course, we don't know how long we're going to need them, but I think it's, the option that the approach we're taking right now is to get as many assets here as we can. If we overpay and don't need them because the fires are out, I'll take that all day long.
As you mentioned, a fire in Central, one in CBN, and now, of course, one in Paddy's Pond, with others popping up almost every day. Now, I know some are close to one another, but are you confident we have the resources here right now to get ahead on all 3 fires at once?
No, this is part of the issue. I mean, the more fires that crop up, there's no, the assets that we have right now are working to contain the fires, but suppress the fires, but they do continue to grow. We do need rain. You don't have to be a fire expert to come to that conclusion. This is why we continue to look at options to bring in more assets.
What do you make of the calls from the independents that the election should be moved?
I'm focused on wildfires. I'm focused on safety of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. The election is important, of course. Democracy is important, but we will have an election at the appropriate time. There's a fixed date election. There's legislation in place. But let's focus on the fires right now. Let's focus on the firefighters who are doing the work. Let's focus on the volunteers, and let's prioritize this right now. But we'll get through this, and we'll get through the election.
Premier, do you believe people are setting fires intentionally to hurt others?
I don't know. I don't have any of that information, but I really hope Newfoundlanders and Labradorians aren't doing that. It is forest fire season. There's forest fires across the country. They happen for all kinds of reasons. So let's just try and see the good in everybody right now.
When you're trying to procure helicopters, water bombers, how can you explain what that's like given the demand, because there are so many other fires across Canada right now?
Sure. So as we've talked about a number of times at these availabilities, our initial contact is with the Canadian interagency, I think it's Forest Fire Corporation, CIFC as we call it. So that's the initial process. Our provincial duty officers usually talk to counterparts in other provinces, and then when we're aware that there are potentially assets available, CIFC will make that request on our behalf. In other instances, we will reach out to private companies. For example, the Sikorsky heavy capacity helicopter we talked about yesterday was a procurement through Canadian Helicopters. So normally known sources that we would go to in terms of private assets.
But what I'm trying to ask is, I guess, are they getting more expensive given the demand right across Canada, because maybe everybody wants some sort of asset to come help their province if they have a fire?
So we've not often in the last few years been in a position to need private company resources. So Premier was spot on the costs, but I don't have any data right now to suggest if they're getting more expensive.
The safety of residents in their homes is the highest priority, but the fire's going to have other effects too. And for instance, almost all of our chicken comes from one company, and their production facility is now evacuated. So, are you looking at what's happening there, and that are we going to see some big change in the availability of chicken, is that something that we even have capacity to look at or address, or you just kind of accept it as, one of the other consequences?
Yeah, those all kinds of consequences are going to happen as we go through this over the next few days, of course. And it's our responsibility to address all the consequences. And, food security is an issue here in Newfoundland and Labrador anyways, so we'll have to look at that and any other things that arise over the next number of days.
Do we know what's happening with the chickens at that site now?
I'd just add that there is a direct line of communication between Country Ribbon and our incident commander, so we don't anticipate that being an issue in the near future, but obviously the longer it goes, and with any particular shifts or growth in the fire in that direction, it could be a different story. But right now, we're in good shape.
I understand people in CBS near the Holyrood fire may need some water testing if they have been close, if they're on wells out that way. Is there any information you can provide about that?
I don't have any information on that, no. Sorry. Okay.
Premier, all communities after okay. Sorry?
You go ahead, Minister Haggie.
I was just going to add about the water testing, Premier. I didn't think anyone could hear me.
Yeah, we got you.
The water testing is done as a matter of routine after an evacuation. It's part of the post-evacuation checks that are done in communities about power lines and these kind of things. And usually there's a boil order and maybe even a non-consumption order until the results are back, because some of those tests can take a week or two to come back.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.